The rain was falling in thin silver lines when the deal of a lifetime began to collapse, and no one in that glass tower realized that salvation was walking in on the small feet of a child who carried 7 languages in her mind and a lifetime of quiet sacrifice in her heart. At the exact moment when millions were about to vanish, when trust was unraveling and reputations were on the edge of ruin, a single father with tired eyes and his extraordinary daughter stepped into history without knowing it. Before the story pulls you deeper, pause for just a second. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of unexpected heroes, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Ethan Carter had not planned for life to turn out this way. He had once been a promising logistics manager, fluent in spreadsheets and schedules, with dreams that stretched farther than his modest apartment. Then his wife passed away suddenly, leaving him alone with their daughter, Lily Carter, who was only 3 at the time and already listening to the world with an intensity that felt almost frightening. Ethan became a single father overnight, trading ambition for survival, taking night shifts, day shifts, and any contract work that allowed him to be present for school pickups and feverish nights. Money was always tight, sleep was always short, and grief sat quietly in the corners of their home like an uninvited guest who never left. Lily grew up watching her father fight exhaustion with love. While other children played with toys, she played with sounds. She listened to cartoons in different languages, repeated words she did not yet understand, and asked endless questions about accents, meanings, and cultures. Ethan could not afford tutors, but he could afford encouragement. He borrowed library books, downloaded free language apps on an old phone, and let Lily explore the world through words. By the age of 10, she could understand and speak 7 languages with a natural ease that astonished teachers and quietly terrified her father, who worried about how fragile brilliance could be in a harsh world. The day everything changed began like any other day of struggle. Ethan had landed a temporary job as a junior logistics assistant for a massive international merger meeting. It was not glamorous, but it paid well enough to cover rent and Lily's school fees for a few months. The meeting involved a $70 million international supply chain deal led by one of the most powerful women in the corporate world, Victoria Reynolds, a self-made billionaire CEO known for her icy precision and zero tolerance for mistakes. The deal involved partners from multiple countries, legal teams from different continents, and contracts written in layers of translated clauses that left no room for misunderstanding. Ethan brought Lily with him that morning because her school had closed unexpectedly, and he could not afford to miss the job. He seated her quietly in a corner with a notebook and headphones, apologizing silently to a world that rarely made space for single parents. Lily watched everything with curious eyes, absorbing the tension in the room, the nervous pacing, the rapid-fire exchanges of documents, and the subtle panic that began to spread when confusion erupted over a critical clause in the agreement. A mistranslation had been discovered, but no one could trace where it originated, and each party blamed the other. Voices rose, trust cracked, and the $70 million deal teetered on the edge of collapse. Victoria Reynolds sat at the head of the table, her composure steady but her eyes sharp with disappointment. Years of work, months of negotiation, and the livelihoods of hundreds of employees were about to be undone by a language error. Legal teams scrambled, translators argued, and time slipped away like sand through clenched fists. Ethan stood frozen on the sidelines, knowing his place, knowing he was invisible, knowing that one wrong move could cost him the job he desperately needed. That was when Lily looked up from her notebook. She had been listening, not out of boredom, but out of instinct. Her young mind recognized patterns, tones, and inconsistencies. She realized that the clause in question had been translated from Mandarin to English through an intermediary version in French, and in that process, a single phrase had shifted meaning just enough to imply a guarantee that was never intended. She tugged gently at her father's sleeve, her eyes serious, her small face filled with urgency. Ethan felt his heart race. He knew the risk. A single dad with a child interrupting a billionaire CEO's meeting was unthinkable. But he also knew his daughter. He had seen her mind work miracles with words. With trembling hands and a voice that barely carried, he explained to the nearest coordinator that Lily might have noticed something important. The room paused, irritation flashing across faces that had no patience left. What happened next felt unreal. Lily was allowed to explain, quietly, carefully, as she reconstructed the clause's journey across languages, pointing out where meaning had drifted and how it could be corrected without violating any party's original intent. She did not speak like a child showing off. She spoke like someone protecting something fragile. The room fell silent. Translators checked her explanation. Lawyers reread the documents. One by one, heads lifted, eyes widened, and disbelief softened into awe. The correction was valid. The misunderstanding dissolved. The deal was saved. Victoria Reynolds stood slowly, her gaze fixed on the small girl who had just rescued $70 million with nothing but knowledge and courage. In that moment, the Billionaire CEO did something no one expected. She acknowledged vulnerability. She acknowledged help. She acknowledged a single father who had raised a child capable of bridging worlds. The meeting concluded successfully, but the real transformation began afterward. Victoria did not forget Lily or Ethan. She funded Lily's education without conditions, created a scholarship program for gifted children from single-parent households, and offered Ethan a permanent position that respected both his skills and his responsibilities as a father. More than money changed hands that day. Dignity was restored. Futures were rewritten. Ethan no longer measured life by bills overdue or hours slept. He measured it by watching Lily grow into herself without fear. Lily learned that her gift was not just about languages, but about listening, empathy, and timing. And Victoria Reynolds learned that power is not diminished by humility, but strengthened by it. Years later, when Lily stood on an international stage advocating for cross-cultural understanding, she would remember the rain, the glass tower, and the moment when her quiet voice mattered more than fear. She would remember her father's tired eyes filled with pride. And she would remember that kindness, when paired with courage, can rewrite destinies. If this story stirred something inside you, if it reminded you that miracles often arrive quietly and heroes can look like tired parents and curious children, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel to keep these stories alive. Please comment just before the ending and tell us what part of this story touched your heart the most. The world changes not only through power and wealth, but through love, patience, and a child brave enough to speak when silence feels safer.